Hi, this is Dr. Seymour Kern, and we're back again now for Chapter 8 of Low Noise Thinking. Chapter 8 is the two major categories of psychological illness. Now, I'm not coming on here as a medical doctor, I'm just telling you what I've read in the books, and so if you have any questions or any criticism or whatever, you should seek the opinion of your physician. In any case, let's begin. There are two major causes of psychological illness. One is neurosis, and the other is psychosis. Well, kind of like a computer, you have the hardware and the software. Psychosis is physical damage, like the hardware. Neurosis is a programming problem. You just can't get your thoughts together properly, or who knows what. But basically, there's a distinction of the two, and basically it's hardware versus software. Hardware being the brain, which is psychosis. Neurosis would be the software. As I mentioned earlier in my book, if we compare the human brain to a computer, the computer and the brain have both software and hardware. The brain holds the information, experience, teaching, training, and other stored data. This represents the software, the learning, the teaching. The hardware is represented by the internal wiring or nervous system connections itself. So here is the basic difference. A neurotic has problems with his or her software, i.e. learning and or data, and a psychotic has problems with his hardware, i.e. his wiring. So which are you? In any case, in the human brain, noise moderates all activity on a continuous basis. This process cannot be shut down with a switch. In a computer, resistance to electrical activity controls the flow of information that can be shut down with an electrical switch. There are three levels of noise: high noise, low noise, no noise, and maybe noise that's consistent with your needs. High noise blocks or masks all transmission. It's kind of like walking uphill constantly all day long, and that can really draw a lot of your energy. But basically, high noise blocks or masks all transmission. According to the signal-to-noise ratio, that's the denominator. So if the denominator gets to be too big, then the ratio drops down, and your level of mental functioning goes down quite considerably. Low noise partially blocks or masks transmission. Everybody has to have an optimum level of noise, all right? And this is internal noise. This is not stuff you can hear or see, but it's stuff that's lingering on in the brain. Now, no noise does not block or mask information at all. As a matter of fact, it does the opposite. So with low noise or no noise, which is consistent with death, when the noise level drops down to zero, you have a denominator that's divided by a very small quantity. If it's zero, the fraction comes out to be infinity. In other words, you become infinitely overloaded with information. All parts of the brain start to be picked up from all other parts of the brain, and you have basically the formation of a very heavy-duty nightmare. By LNT, Low Noise Thinking, LNT, the definition is infinitely high noise and absolute zero noise are the extreme boundaries that define the limits to our conscious mind, but not necessarily to our subconscious or even unconscious infinite mind. The infinite mind is an undefined term. that could only exist in the realm of infinity or Neverland, where the so-called impossible somehow becomes infinitely possible, quote unquote, or real in your mind. In other words, if it's in your mind, or not in your mind, but if it's there, um, it's like fake news. You wake up out of a nightmare and you believe that you're still experiencing being in that nightmare for, a short while or even a long time, depending on the situation. So absolute zero noise are the extreme um, boundaries that define the limits to our conscious mind, but not necessary to our subconscious or even unconscious infinite mind. And believe me, it's infinite. As I mentioned earlier in chapters, the brain has infinite storage capacity because its information flows in the form of waveforms, which are infinitely stackable. So there's no limit to the amount of waveforms you can put on a pinhead. Be difficult, but it's possible. Okay, so the infinite mind is an undefined term that could only exist in the realm of infinity or Neverland, where the so-called impossible somehow becomes infinitely possible or real. So what exists in your mind is real for you. By LNT definition, it is noise in its purest form that lies between a finite physical human body and the extremes of infinity, collectively to be designated as life, living, alive, and so forth, and infinitely more. Noise is the master controller, the governor of Neverland, analogous to what is commonly referred to as is or being, or as, who knows, possibly the soul, and the infinite soul. So your soul is basically on the other side of the planet or the universe. It's something which is undefined. And I said in an earlier chapter that it's amazing you find that more people are writing books on, or writing things on what they don't know versus what they do know. So, in any case, by LNT definition, it is noise in its purest form that lies between a finite physical human body and the extremes of infinity, collectively to be designated as life, living, alive, and infinitely more. Boy, that's a mouthful. How can I do that? Anyway, noise is the master controller, the governor of Neverland, analogous to what is commonly referred to as your being, as your soul. Low noise thinking utilizes sleep and other techniques to regulate the great divide spanned by matter, energy, space, time, and the great unknown. LNT helps us lower or elevate noise to a level consistent with optimal functioning, and even variably for each location in the brain. So every part of the brain has a different zone, a different position, or whatever, however you want it to be. It's the grand central terminal for everything, their brain. LNT helps us lower or elevate noise to a level consistent with optimal function, and even variably for each location in the brain. The vivid and intense mental imagery projected by the mind in sleep conjures up the feeling and belief that what we are able to see is truly real, or reality, when it really isn't. So noise thus becomes the mystical bridge that transcends everything. It enables us to categorize a wide range of psychological problems, So make use of LNT wisely and be pleasantly surprised. And we have, LNT is anything and everything, and so as you'll find out, it's a enormous resource. And once you understand the physiology and the structure, as they said in medical school, if you know the structure of a drug, you know how the drug will work. Basically, we're saying the same thing, but not just for drugs, for everything. In any case, that's the end of Chapter 8. Chapter 9, the psychodynamics of the suicidal mindset, is a very popular subject, and that's coming up just now.